So this is going to be my blog journal. I think an effective entrance hello would be that don't procrastinate. It's not good. It's not fun. And then it's like 4 a.m. and you have to work in 3 hours and you're not going to sleep. So yeah, procrastination is not good. I would suggest not doing it. It's not fun, stressful. That's kind of how my semester went, but we're here now, so in a few days, graduation hopefully, so hopefully that happens. All right, anyway, so I guess I can start by just talking about a little bit about my expectations for the course coming into it initially. I guess I really didn't know what a capstone course was, at least for this specific major, IT. I had some people in my other classes, like past semesters. I'm guessing he was a computer science major because I remember what he was talking about, and he only had like one project, or at least that's what I thought at the time. Like he had like a cumulative research project or something of that nature. So I was like, oh, that doesn't seem too bad. Something research based, kind of just focusing on one thing. And I don't know, dig into depth into that is what my assumption was. But when you asked us, when Professor Hughes asked us, I got the assumption that, none of us really had an idea of what exactly capstone was other than something you take when you're about to graduate. So, I was hoping something that would kind of bring together most of the aspects of what we learned. Obviously, you can't cover every single thing, but I think there could be a possible high level overview of something, or at least kind of shows how the things we learn will transfer into our real world aspects. Maybe I'm just too hopeful on, them giving us courses that are actually beneficial to the paying students, but maybe that's just me. All right, so I thought it was pretty interesting that Professor also didn't really know what to tell us or what we should expect or what was going to happen. So at the beginning, Professor Hughes talked about, definitely said that it was going to be different than what we were used to, and that it definitely was. At the very beginning, I was like, okay, never seen this guy. I think this will be interesting. Seems pretty cool, whatnot. And I guess I was kind of confused from the start because I was like, we were like 2 weeks in and we had only been having, I guess, casual lectures, and they weren't really structured like I was used to. So I was like, what are we really going to dive into here? Are we supposed to be reading? Which later I found out we were supposed to be doing chapter reads, but to me, I felt like I wasn't really aware that that's what was going on. So I guess I would have liked to there have been more clear communication between, student, teachers, everybody on the same page, know what's going on, whatnot. As far as the syllabus goes, I don't think I had that, but I think it was pretty vague. I didn't realize at the time, but looking back now, I feel like the way I am, I like to know exactly what I'm getting into, exactly what to expect, what's going to happen. These are the expectations. This is what you have to meet. You know what you're getting yourself into and what you got to do to get where you need to be, I guess. So there is some stuff on here as far as points wise, but not really explanations of, what's what that entails, what the dates are, nothing like that really, but okay. So maybe a little bit background about me. This is I'm 4.5 years, so this is my extra semester to graduate. I think like some other students had said in the past with the department, the advisement within this department is not exactly top notch, but I think in college in general, from what I've learned, they don't necessarily want to see you get out of here in 4 years and want you on your way. But definitely the CSIS department, as time went on, as I became a senior, I just realized there's a lot of stuff that they're not doing that they should be doing. When you're a freshman coming in, you don't really know what to expect unless you have somebody telling you, like, hey, this is what you need to do. Like, they're going to try to fool you here, trick you there, whatever. Sometimes you just gotta learn the hard way. I guess that's what probably happened to most of us. I'm not sure if anybody in our class is actually dead like 4 semesters. I mean, I would assume not, since we're all graduating in the winter, unless anybody was graduating a semester early. Congratulations, but I don't think that was the case. So anyway, about me, IT, multimedia. I kind of chose multimedia because I thought it was interesting. I mean, I still like Photoshop. I do that at my internship currently. I work at a school as marketing admissions. I help with some of their website stuff, database stuff, and like just other fairly simple editing stuff within Photoshop. But so pertaining to this class, once I realized what it was, I was actually kind of excited. I wasn't necessarily afraid because I had an internship over the summer at DSW in Columbus, where I was a business intelligence analyst intern. And while I was there, they were in the middle of their SDLC process of implementing a new software. So they were converting from an old system to a new system. So I got to play a role in that. And I guess at the time, so prior to that, I didn't have any, or at least much SDLC knowledge. Like, I heard the term, we read about it in our textbooks, but to me, they were just kind of words. I didn't really know exactly what it meant and how it was used and, the day-to-day of it. But when I got there, I asked a lot of questions. I was trying to learn as much as I could, pretty much, and I did enjoy being there, whatnot. So then when I started this class, I realized, this is actually the whole process that they went through prior to me being there, of defining the requirements, like setting up the project plans, the dates, the specifics, everything like that. So where I'm at now, I kind of, like our final project that we just did, I feel like it all kind of makes sense from what I did over the summer. Like, I didn't really understand it now, and now I'm kind of putting it together, and I'm like, oh, like I did that. I was a part of that. I wasn't necessarily the one implementing things, just more of a team member doing some, minor stuff like report development, testing, use case things, such like that. So, okay. So I guess I'll start with project 1. That was fun. Going into it, I think we all just kind of, we took the requirements for what they were. We're like, okay, this doesn't seem too bad. I think most of us kind of asked a lot of questions, like when things were unclear, like what exactly do you want? Like what part? For me, I know it was, what were we, so we were evaluating, we were getting requirements for a portion of, you gave us iGEM, NORAD, and D-Waves. For me, it wasn't clearly defined as to what exactly we were defining. And I know you did mention that it was up to us, so I took it as, the evaluation of the websites themselves, which I realized that's not really close to what it was, but you said that's okay as long as, you're evaluating it, whatever. So looking back, I do realize that there was a lot of reading we were supposed to be doing from the books, and you did mention that after some students had mentioned, like, like, we don't know this stuff, are we supposed to be reading? And you're like, yeah, but it's like, I know we don't need our handheld, we're not children, of course, but the methods that we're used to at YSU, it's kind of just like everything is put out there for you. This is what it is, this is what you gotta do, and get it done. So like I have here, one of my notes was about a teaching method. So I understand you want us to be more like research based and guess and check. And I totally get that. It's just, and I think like I have learned a lot. Like looking back on the semester, I feel like I definitely have learned a lot. It's just, there was a lot of frustrations along the way because I feel like there is a more effective way for us to learn in the same way with these research and, kind of digging on our own and finding things out for ourselves. But I feel like the communication initially has to be clear of what the final results are. So just like we are defining requirements and doing all this other stuff for these projects, I feel like those same standards should have been applied to the class and to our projects because, I mean, these are projects and we're kind of the implementers or the developers. So I feel like the plan should have been laid out for us, like this is what you need to do. And then there would have been at least less confusion and hopefully we probably could have been able to produce better quality documents from the beginning. So, yeah, I mean, we all know that the presentations were fun. There was a lot of constructive criticisms, and I don't have anything against that. I think that's totally a good thing. At the beginning, I felt like most of us were kind of shocked, like, wow, like professor is really getting nitty gritty down to every detail, like very nitpicky. But after a couple weeks, or I think after looking at other people's presentations, I realized this is the type of like specific detail that we need, and this is the type of attention teachers and professors need to be giving students in all classes. The problem is a lot of YSU teachers, let us all slide and get by on the bare minimum, and we get fairly lazy with that. And so, I mean, overall, in turn, it's not helping us any. Like, yeah, we're going to get through college, we're going to be all right. But we're not, like, doing the full extent of whatever the projects are. And maybe we had talks of the other universities. I think you compared us to them. It's like, they're known for being that hard, so that's why they're super hard to get into. And they're also at that standard. That's why people want to go there, because they know those degrees carry so much weight. Maybe that's the reason why for years people say YSU doesn't, like, the degree doesn't carry as much weight as like Ohio State or something like that. Well, maybe there is a reason for that. But going back, drawing this together again, I think overall the way you taught will in the long run help us out. It's just, like any other system, there could be improvements, tweaks, adjustments. So that's my constructive criticism. I think pretty much the big thing was just the communication. Like, that's just, I don't know, essential to anything, really. So back to Project 1. So I know there was some formatting issues with myself as well as some other people. I didn't really know what ACM IEEE formatting was. Like, I know the terms, most of us knew the terms, but didn't really know what that was. So I kind of looked around on the web. I looked for some stuff that I thought was right, and I don't really think it was. And I kind of created my own formatting, which, I still got the 50 out of 50, so I'm not mad about that. But I feel like we could have been, told, here's the format, here's where to find it, something like that. Okay. So, yes, with your teaching style, I would say definitely give us a run for our money, made us work for our grades. And then seeing people get, more points throughout the presentations, or people get, slid by. If they were the first presenters, they kind of got a hall pass or whatever. I don't know how to feel about that. Like, I get that as we saw presentations, we were learning stuff, and, like, people could obviously go and change their stuff and try to sneak and act like they have it done. But so again, I guess, like, the expectation for those people down the line to keep adding more, it's a lot more work on their plate. I guess just as a college student, it's like we don't want to do the work. But again, I do see the value and why it's necessary and why it helps us in the long run. So, okay, so for project 2, this was again something that I felt like I had a pretty good understanding of coming into because of my internship. Reading the work statement was difficult. I read it multiple times, tried to highlight things. It was breaking it down of what's the requirement, what's the questions being asked, what's the main problem, how are we going to solve this. So a lot of my time was really spent just like really digging into what they were asking for and what the specific problems were. And I'm pretty sure that in a lot of the presentations, like, a lot of people had a hard time hitting the nail right on the head of exactly what the problem was. I think I got it. I'm not sure, but I thought it did. So, I enjoyed learning more about the other research methods. I knew about waterfall and agile. That's about it, because that's the ones that when I was working on my internship, that's what we used. Apparently, we started in waterfall and then switched to agile. That was about right when I got there, so I honestly, wasn't really aware of what was going on at the time either. It was just, they were like, oh, this is agile and this and that. But I had only been there for like a week, so I couldn't necessarily compare the two because I didn't have much to compare to. And I guess like coming up with your own requirements just based on reading at times can be difficult to figure out like how to term things and not duplicating things, because a lot of this stuff pertaining to the diabetes and like the minorities was repeated in multiple sections. So I think just organizing all of that was confusing and difficult because I was just trying to keep everything, neat and hit this on the target here. But overall, for that project, I feel like I pretty much got the grasp of how to fix the issues. It was a pretty complex problem. Like, there's a lot of research that in like the real world of actually doing this, which I know we were supposed to be, but like there's definitely a lot of research to be done on like all those diabetes statistics, minority statistics. It's a lot of analyzing, a lot of bases to cover, a lot of areas to prove on, and definitely a lot of future work for that. Okay, so for project 3, I thought that one was pretty interesting. Watching the video, at first I was just like, I felt like it stopped before we necessarily got like what we needed, and I know we could also contact him for interview and questions, but didn't necessarily take that step because at the time that kind of pressed for time, so that didn't get to happen. But I watched it a few times, so I tried to dissect what I can make out from it. So I pretty much began after writing down just notes from his video. I looked at his website, which as a marketing minor, it's just it was kind of painful to look at, to be honest. It's pretty old, outdated. Things weren't structured in a simple to navigate and catch the user's attention way. So it was difficult to figure out where to start with that project. He definitely had a lot of needs just as a business as a whole. I think it was an ill-informed business model is what I would say. I know he's an older guy, and some people kind of stuck in their ways. They're not open to or looking for new ways to improve. So I can see, why he has it his way, and that's just kind of how he does it, because maybe he just doesn't know any better or whatever it may be. So I did some research on order processing tools, and the one I found, which I feel like solved a lot of the problems because it allowed for processing credit card information like on his website, linking that to Amazon. It gave order numbers, tracking numbers. That way that stuff like he can then forward to his whoever is purchasing it, and he has a record, they have a record. It's not something just in an email system like he was using. Something more documented and structured, and I would assume easier to navigate than just loose emails, even though if he does have one specific one, I necessarily wouldn't trust that, because I know you never know, something accidentally gets sent to the wrong email or deleted or moved to junk, whatever it may be. So a lot of the stuff that I actually wrote for that was pretty much just marketing was my main thing, because I could not get over the fact of just how poorly advertised his product was, because I think it is a pretty good product, the Additrap. I think it can definitely sell if people know what it is. So I put definitely redoing the website. He has a video that was on his website that basically describes what his product was. That pretty much just needs to not be there. Or a different video that's more so animated rather than just talking and explaining, what it is. Because people I feel like they receive information, they only have like lately shorter attention spans, so you just kind of want to convey that information as quickly as possible, get them the benefits, the advantage, and whatever the product specs are. That way you make sales. Okay, what else with that project? So yeah, a lot of that just needed, I think, cleaned up, more clear, clean, concise. I did notice that on I think it was the Hajoka website, they had a tab for suppliers, but I noticed his name or his company, like his LLC, was not on there, which I thought was kind of weird, since technically if they're at least supplying one of the chains and selling them a product, I think he should be considered a supplier. So I included that he should outreach to the corporation as a whole to be listed as a supplier, because they're kind of like selling him short and kind of cutting him off there. But yeah, there's a lot of simple stuff. I think you need to just gather all the information from the other chain stores, which I thought was also weird, that you couldn't just, there was no like list of contacts on their website. You could search for the stores on the map, but that didn't actually work. So you would pretty much have to manually find them all, which sounds like a pain. I didn't really have a solution of how to do that other than probably manually to find all of those. So, but overall, simple improvements that I think can make a huge difference. Okay, and then lastly, I'm just going to talk about the final project. So I spent a few hours just kind of going back, defining what each method was, listing out all the pros and cons and starting from there. So I had all those written out and just kind of compared, and I looked at the diagrams of each to see kind of, how each compared to one another. That's how I kind of came up with my 7 steps that are in in pretty much every process. But overall, I developed an iterative model that I think, I don't know, my diagram probably could have been a little bit cleaner. In my head, it kind of makes sense. You could see the flow, the process flow. But looking back, I'm sure there's a way to make it a little more clear of where things flow, what goes back and forth when things go wrong, what moves backwards. But after researching all the methods, it actually wasn't too bad to kind of develop your own. It was actually a little bit of a challenge, and I enjoyed it because I think after graduation, I'm planning on staying in a business analyst role or something of that nature. So this is all stuff that I plan on using and working with. So going more into depth with that was actually kind of interesting. And then for the final project, or the NRI proposal, it wasn't that bad as we all thought it was, I think, at the beginning. It was just intimidating. Well, just seeing the whole, final project as a whole, that was just kind of intimidating. Once we worked together and we developed our GroupMe app where we can all just kind of communicate, once that got going, things got definitely a lot easier because we were, at each other's disposal 24/7, any questions. So as the project went on more, definitely everybody kind of opened up more and was more willing to talk and communicate and all of that. So I was on web development, social media, and project management. For the web development, I basically just helped put everything into the project proposal with the project plan. On the social media, I documented and created the Facebook page, which the Facebook page itself actually covers a lot of the aspects of social media. Not that it's the only one or the only one that should be used, but it also has most of the features that the other Gmail website that the Reddit had. And since Facebook's so widely used and widely known, I think that was definitely an essential part of the virtual lab, and hopefully that would be a success factor if this were to be a real thing. As far as project management goes, even though this was a small scale project of students, I can see definitely how big projects can be halted, because when you have to wait for one action before you can do the next, it's kind of difficult, and you don't want to offend people, or it's not that there was any issues really, but maybe with me, I don't even know. But overall, I think it worked out pretty good. We had a fun time. We had some donuts and some coffee this morning. Yeah, that was today that we just finished that up. So I enjoyed it. I think even though the class was a little bit hell at times, a lot of us were frustrated at many times, I believe. So I thought, at least, that's what I observed. I think we're ready to graduate. I'm ready to graduate. I'm ready to not have the stresses of turning in homeworks and deadlines. And yeah. But overall, I would say I wouldn't mind taking another course with Professor Hughes. Definitely a different approach. I learned a lot, not necessarily by choice. I think I was forced to, but that's probably a good thing, because maybe I wouldn't have on my own. So yeah, overall, it's pretty much all I have to say. And thanks for listening.